So let's bring the village board meeting, December 8th, 2025, to order. Looks to be about 6:06 PM. And I just, before we do any other business, I just wanted to recognize we have new trustee, Gina Cephalou-Pollock, who is our new trustee number 2. And this is her first meeting, so welcome, Gina.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So the next item would be roll call.
Karas,
Here.
Anastasio,
Here.
Pollock,
Here.
Here.
Venturini,
Here.
DeGroot.
He's here. So the next item would be Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Someone say it was supposed to be reversed.
So the next item is the 2025 Progress Report on Public Works and Community Development Departments. It's kind of also known as the Sam and Tony Show. So
Okay,
you're here.
I'll be starting the introduction.
Okay.
So what we're doing is we're starting with the progress report. What this is, it's kind of like the annual report for both community development and public works. The board approves different projects throughout the year. And with that, we're just trying to come up with a picture of that in one spot that you can keep track of where we've been and where we're going. If you recall, during the strategic planning process, we were talking about making sure we're watching how our growth works, keeping our services competitive with what we have in the past, and growing our services in parks and other areas as well. This is trying to give you a picture of that. So what we're going to be going through the different projects, and then we're going to be going through the infrastructure projects and then the development projects through this. We're also going to be adding information to the website that you're seeing tonight, but then also with maps and such, so that the citizens can look at it any time, that you can look back at it at any time. This will be the first progress report of its kind for the village, and we are hoping to do this on an annual basis. We will likely be doing this type of this one in the first quarter in future years, not in 26, but then in 27. And then you're also going to be seeing the police annual reports, the fire annual reports. So all of your big departments, we're going to be coming in front of you and giving you an annual report. Okay, one of the things that we've talked about at length during the budget process and such is net new construction and what that means for the community. Where net new construction is the value of projects that have occurred from 1 January 1st to the next January 1st. How this helps the community under levy limits and just paying for taxes and such is that as you have new construction, you have a bigger number to divide the tax levy by. So that helps keep taxes at a more competitive rate. It also, for you, for elected officials, it gives you options, okay? Because under the levy limits, you are only able to increase your levy by net new construction. So for built-out communities or communities that have low growth, they aren't even able to keep the levy competitive with inflationary increases. You have options because you have net new construction at this time. So, and that gives you, that makes it so that you can continue to maintain services or grow services that your citizens want. Whereas if you did not have that net new construction growth, you would have to be deciding what you could cut, or you'd have to be going to referendum asking for the taxpayers to allow you to increase your levy by more, which also costs you money. Okay? That's about it. So now I'm going to be turning this over to Tony. Talk about some of our infrastructure projects.
We on here? Okay. Thank you, Tammy. Yeah, so I will go over some of the bigger road and utility projects that the village did this year, as well as what came from some developer-run projects. So as you can see on the first slide, this year we paved just under 3 miles as part of our paving program. And that number's a little low, and that number is low because the work we did on Oaks Road north of Highway 11 was actually a reconstruct of the surface from asphalt to concrete, more expensive project, so it took our total mileage down. We like to see our mileage for our paving programs around about 4 or 5 miles a year. That's kind of our sweet spot based on our total mileage and the life expectancies of those roads. And then you'll also see we have a little over a mile about to be accepted potentially tonight from developers for this year. And that's been a pretty consistent number for the last several years. So we're seeing that number uptick as things really start happening across the village.
Just quickly, Tony, just for context, because we've got some new people here, how many village road miles do we have?
We are close to about 140. We're probably between 135 and 140 at this point. So on the next slide, you can kind of see we're very well spread out across the village this year. We do have pretty solid concentration around the Pheasant Creek subdivision, but other than that, we're pretty scattered about both from the developer roadways and the paving program roadways. For your information, from a process standpoint, we typically like to design our paving programs for the next year, starting just about this time. We like to see the budget get adopted. We know what our scope is, so then we can move forward, start the design process. At the same time, we can start televising sewers, inspecting structures, and kind of bring that all together. Late winter, we can get that on the streets, get it bid, and get the best prices we can. As far as the developer projects go, we normally see those plans, their civil plans, well in advance of any construction, so we can vet those to make sure they meet all our standards, our specifications. And then, as those projects happen, we're out in the field part-time, full-time, whatever it may be, depending on what's getting built, to make sure that those plans that we approved actually come to fruition. On to the sewer utility. You can see the mileage that we put in this year. It's an impressive number. That's a big number, about 3 miles of sewer actually built by the village. And that comes from 2 projects. One is the Hewitt Memorial Drive extension that went up that roadway from KR to Highway 11. And the other is the TID 7 improvements, where sewer was extended west down Spring from Highway V to roughly the I-94 frontage road. So a lot of sewer that went in this year from those 2 TID projects. And then you can see we also had a little over a mile that came from developers. And if you'll notice, that number is eerily similar to the roadway numbers that got donated from developers, because typically those 2 go hand in hand. You build a road, you're probably gonna have a sewer built to service the adjacent development at the same time. I would note the picture you see is actually the subject of the next slide, but that is a photo of the Chicory Road storage basin under construction. So you can see the size and scale of what they're putting underground out there. So onto that project. This is a 1.7 million gallon underground tank. And it was put in with the Racine wastewater utility as a means of preventing basement backups and system surcharging. So several years ago, we had some significant backup problems in this area, as did City of Racine residents kind of east of Meacham Road. So we went to the city, told them we had an interest in doing a project here. Things evolved from there, and we got into the appropriate analyses and found out what our solution was, which ended up to be a 2-phase solution, one being this tank and the other being a sewer relay in between the tank and the affected area as it shows up on your exhibit there. Sewer relay was done early last year, and they're just now finishing the tank, which should be online probably in the coming weeks. So,
If memory serves me right, this was in part financed by one-time COVID relief funds?
there were ARPA funds that were applied to this project, yes. And just for everybody's information, how these basins typically work is when the flows in the sewer upstream get high enough, and begin to start to surcharge the sewer, they'll be bypassed into the tank, and as the flows in the sewer recede, the tank gets pumped down back into the sewer when it can handle that flow appropriately. This is one of our other important projects going on in our sewer utility right now. And it's the installation of permanent generators at 7 of our smaller lift station sites. Our process right now, and has been for years, is if we have a power outage at any of these stations, it's normally happening after hours. We're calling in staff. It's inclement weather. They're driving to DPW to pick up a portable generator or two, driving to the site, and all the while you have this lengthy amount of time where anything can go wrong without that power. You're exposing your employees to probably some nasty weather they have to work in and get the equipment there. These prevent almost all those concerns. So the generators are now on site, and as soon as that power goes out, they're powered by natural gas, they fire right up, and it puts our employees, it puts the village in a much safer situation.
I'm just curious, what's the size of these generators? How many megawatt, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but they're pretty big. So we finally got all the We Energies gas services in very recently here, so we're gonna start taking each one online through the next couple months, and we should be wrapped up in February with getting this project done. Stormwater utility. So we had one big storm sewer project this year, and that was essentially a relay and extension of a sewer on Deerfield Road. And this is on the west and east side of Newman Road, near the north end of the village. But we had a sewer that, at the upstream end, there was runoff that was bypassing the sewer, not getting into it, and flooding out some residents' yards. So we said, let's upsize this sewer to handle that flow, and then extend the sewer to intercept it and get it where it belongs and get it routed downstream. So that project's complete, went very well. You can see on here one of our other annual tasks. We, as part of our permitting through the DNR, we inspect 20 stormwater outfalls. So we have a very comprehensive testing for a myriad of chemicals that we go through for days and days to make sure there's nothing illicit coming out of these major outfalls in the village sewers. And one other activity that is fairly substantial and is also a permit requirement is the inspection of any open construction sites. So a permitted site qualifies as anything over 1 acre of disturbance. And in 2025, we had 31 of those sites open. So that led to over 300 inspections, routine inspections by our staff. So, and that's to make sure there's compliance with whatever their erosion control plan might be for the given sites. Then we will transition here to the Pike River restoration. I want to talk a little bit about our ongoing efforts out here. I think some of the folks in the room, some of the village board are familiar with the Pike River. I think there's probably a handful who are not, but just a brief history. The Pike River runs from north to south, right through the center of the village for about 5 miles. It runs from Spring Street to KR, right down the middle of the village. And historically, it's been an incised, erosive farm ditch that was dug in the 1920s for farm drainage. So in very poor condition, very poor water quality, very little environmental benefit. So in the late 90s, the stormwater utility started to look into permitting a flood control project. And that permitting through the DNR and the years and years of talk led to the project it is today, which was much more ecologically, water quality based, along with the flooding mitigation that went into that. So in the first 2 decades of the 2000s, the utility started buying up land and started implementing these design projects to meet those goals. And we've ended up with almost 450 acres of land and a completed project which includes, the flood storage channels, the wetland complexes, the water quality aquatic features, and native vegetation throughout. So when you build something like that, you want to make sure you maintain it, you want to make sure it works. We've seen the wildlife come back. One thing people used to say was, we want this project to get northern pike spawning in the Pike River again. And to be honest, that started happening before we were even done. So this project was a hit from the get-go. But with that, you want to make sure it keeps doing what we know it's doing now. So every year we contract with multiple ecological consultants. We combat invasives, which is probably the biggest headache out there, is keeping this natural prairie and trying to fight those invasives from several different angles. We monitor the water quality in the stream to make sure things are hopefully still improving slightly and not degrading. Chlorides are a big issue, and that's something we're watching out there. Every year we typically do a prescribed burn, if everybody's familiar with that, of several dozen acres, just to kind of burn it off, and that kind of reestablishes that variety of species and keeps it the way we want it. So that's what I got.
All right, I'm up next to take over the community development side. Just as a reminder, community development incorporates parks and recreation, planning services, and building inspection services. So we have a broad range of kind of the more public-facing aspects of dealing with the residents and developers. We're a frequent touch point for a lot of the members of the community. The Parks and Recreation aspect of the department has had a really strong summer in terms of its enrollment for our recreation programs that we offer. Generally an 8% annual increase in those recreation programs, which range from, drop-in and, summertime rec programs to softball, other odds and ends, the programming that we put on as well if you came to the tree lighting ceremony. So they, touching base with a lot of the more like local, what a resident might go to, as opposed to the tourism commission that tends to put like heads in beds kind of thing. A big point of increase is in park shelter reservations, up almost 22.5%. If you talk to George, he'll tell you that it is tough to get the Smolensky Park shelter if you're not in at the right after they open enrollment at the beginning of the year. So if you're interested in any of those shelters, I would, after the new year, keep an eye on the village communications when those reservation periods open. Snag them while you can, because they become very popular. Moving into our park planning, from those shelters, we would like to continue to add those types of amenities that people seem to enjoy across the village. As you all know, we worked through a multi-year process to go with the Plan Commission and the Village Board on these neighborhood park planning processes. We ended up with concept plans approved for Dirksey, Droz, and James Turek parks. There was multiple points of public hearings and feedback throughout those. The neighborhoods were engaged. Droz is planning to start next year as part of the funding that you have all approved in the budget. And you can see the draft master plan here. That we will take into actual design and then come back to you when we bid out that project. So that design is underway. A lot of these master plans added things like shelters, increased green spaces, native plantings. A big point of annual operations maintenance for parks is mowing and maintaining our parks. So in non-active areas outside of normal play fields or things like that where people are actually using the open space, we're attempting through these plans to reestablish native plants in many of those areas, which also has the side benefit of helping many of the surrounding neighborhoods with flooding issues or providing additional screening, habitat, nice walking trails, things like that. So a lot of these efforts have a renewed focus on that kind of passive recreation in many of the village-owned open spaces. With that, with the help of the DNR and some grant funding that we participated in, the village did its first tree inventory. And once we get into the growth side of the job, a lot of that comes Also, with some of the things that Tony was talking about, not just sewers under the roads, but there's oftentimes street trees on top of the roads. And so we've undergone an annual tree inventory and incorporated the information into our GIS. We're currently working through a maintenance plan to address the expanding tree canopy throughout the village. And we'll continue to look at DNR opportunities to improve and restore and take care of that urban tree canopy. But it's been nice to see. And it's all online and cataloged in an organized geographic way, which is pretty cool. Moving on to housing. We've come across a pretty big year in housing. Every year, the village is required to update a housing affordability report. That's not done yet due to the federal government shutdown. Some of the census data that we use is lagging, so we'll likely see that in probably released in January for us to finalize sometime in February. So a little bit of a lag this year due to that shutdown, but we'll get you all that affordable housing report as soon as it's finalized. But so some of this used the previous housing report, but you can see we've had just a huge year in residential housing. 50 single-family homes are permitted, which is a 62% increase. You can see in that graph on the right, in the blue, the single-family homes, and just how since 2007, it's basically dropped off a cliff and hasn't recovered much at all. And that's not just in Mount Pleasant, that's a lot of Racine County and the surrounding areas. However, we are starting to see an uptick as you all have approved new subdivisions led by Pike River Crossing down on 31. We're starting to see those numbers increase again. And when we talk to the homeowners who are purchasing those homes, they've been happy to see the new supply come online, which is nice feedback. We continue to see a very low owner-occupied vacancy rate and renter-occupied vacancy rate. One of the questions we get all the time is, why is the village building all this housing? And I tend to, politely correct people. It's not the village building this. This is private developers coming to the village and proposing their plans. And they see these numbers as much as we do, right? There's still a lot, very low vacancy rates. It's tough to find housing in all ends of the spectrum, whether it's affordable, whether it's rental, whether it's owner occupied, whether it's luxury. It's tight in most of those regards. And so we continue to look at these projects. That affordable housing report I mentioned continues to monitor these vacancy rates. So if at any point there's a downturn in the housing market or supply starts to outstrip demand, the village can take that information into account and adjust, perhaps the incentives we give or the zoning that you all approve accordingly at those times. You can see the map that Tammy mentioned at the very beginning for projects underway. This will be, actually, you'll be able to scroll through and click on it and bring up these projects. So it'll be a nice tool for you all in the public to view. But you can see some of the major projects here are spread all throughout the village. Those come from housing, as I just mentioned. We've also seen some commercial projects like Microsoft or the new Educators Credit Union headquarters out near the interstate. And it's just been a lot, and in every corner of the village. Moving on to talk a little bit about tax increment financing, which is the village's main tool for participating in the development process. Many of the projects you see in this map are located within village TIDs. And the Joint Review Board just reviewed those a few weeks ago. So if you weren't at that meeting, those reports will be online very shortly for you all to review that information. The village every year updates its projections for all of its open tax incremental districts at this point in time, if they're older than 3 years, all of which ours are. So you'll be able to see those reports shortly. You can see that all of the village's tax incremental districts are very healthy. The average return on investment for our 7 active TIDs is about 130%, and that is quite, they're doing quite well. It's also a low estimate because if we get into a little bit of the details, the TID 5 project report for this year did not include Microsoft's 3A project, which is actively under construction. So once those values start to hit, this return on investment will likely double, if not more. TID 7, for instance, its expected return on investment, you can see, is like 500%. So a lot of these are well worth the village investment. Not only are they providing long-term tax benefits once these TIDs start closing for the residents, but in the meantime, and almost more importantly, they're providing the things that the village has set out in those project plans that are true public goods, whether those streets or sidewalks, sewer, water, environmental preservation, parks, et cetera. So we're really able to, due to the success of these, meet many of our project plan goals, which not every TID or community can say. So we're very blessed in that regard. And that's about it. I can answer any questions that you might have.
Go ahead, Denise.
So the TID, the 130%, was that what it was? Is that what you project will be the value, the additional value at the conclusion of the TID?
No, that's essentially the rate on return for how much public money that we're putting up. So whether that's through municipal revenue obligations or village bonding when the village is building streets or sewer, and the amount that we're getting back on that. And that number, I mean, we're saying 130% return is low. I would like that on any of my investments, but that is largely due to the very large number of public investments in TID 5, which was, of course, not just the village, but the county. We're incorporating all of their investment into that as well. So we're taking a big investment number, and we're still hitting our marks, and TID 5 is going to continue to grow because we have projects that are actively under construction. So this is a very conservative number.
Right, so on this graph, you have new value created, the total, is that 2,300,000,000? Okay.
On which
I'm looking at the center, the new value created.
Oh, yes, yep, that would be the new incremental value. So that is the new value created.
Is that as of now?
Correct.
Okay. So not in 2040 or?
No.
That's cumulative.
That is cumulative. It'll likely be much higher by the time we reach 2040.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, when I read the report in my package, I was so pleased. I have been looking for this kind of for a long time, and Tammy, thank you for your leadership, and thank you your staff, Tony, everyone. Kudos to you. I was going to make some recommendation that it should be on the website and annual, and Tammy already addressed that, so you're one step ahead of me anyway. But a great, like the reason that I look at it is, why I'm excited is that we have every state of the union, state of the state, state of the county. This is to me state of the village. When the people call, when the residents call saying, where are my tax dollars being spent? You can see that is money well spent. So again, excellent report. I congratulate all of you. I do have two questions.
Bring it up.
One is out of the $996.6 million of the net new construction, what percentage is that in the TID, or is it all outside TID?
I would have to look into it. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, again, so that would be my question. I'd like to know, almost $1 billion of net new construction, what percentage is in a TID? And my other recommendation is, when you, in the package, when you list all the 7 TIDs, I would like to know, maybe it'd be a good idea to put what's the, right now, based on, it can change, but what's the closing of the TID? I know that we talked about it at the budget.
Those are in we tried to be careful about that. Those are in the actual joint review board reports.
Okay.
So you can look at those projections and those detailed reports. Why we left it out of the packet is without the other context that you find in those joint review board reports,
Good
it tends to
response.
be,
Yeah.
we like to under-promise and over-deliver, as we've said before, and without that context, sometimes I worry that we would be doing that.
I agree, and yeah, so I take that back, but I'd like to know what percentage, but again, I agree with that.
But those reports will be adjacent to all this information. You won't have to find them or seek them out on the website. They'll be right in line with the rest of this.
I like the idea that starting maybe in 2027, it should be in January, saying this is the year in review.
Yep.
Thank you again.
And that is the intention. The intention is that we'll be doing this annually. The police and the fire will be doing annual reports as well. So that way you're hearing, and the taxpayers are hearing from their largest departments as far as what's going on. So a lot of our other departments, while they're support departments as far as some of these things, they help us with creating these reports and being able to provide those services. These are the reports that will be more meaningful for you and for the public. I want to echo what Trustee Bhatia said about as far as thanking the staff for this. It was very fun, and seeing the different staff members, different disciplines, connecting on this and creating these reports. And we'll be doing it again with the police and fire, with having the communications team led by Sean. Sean and Lisa did a great job in pulling all of the data from Tony and Sam together into something that would be easily understood and easily searched and conveying what they wanted people to know.
I agree. I think it's a great report and a great idea to do this every year. I do want to comment that I was sorry not to see the Pike River Pathway mentioned, my favorite thing in the village. Talked about the Pike River corridor, but there's a multi-use path for walking and biking alongside the whole thing, and it's just a delight to use, so.
Well, and
I can't miss that.
Just to build on that and go back to Tony's earlier comments when he was mentioning the whole Pike River reconstruction, we'd be remiss if we didn't go further upstream and comment on the work that's been done on Lampera Creek and the Hoods Creek as well, just from an engineering and from a reconstruction standpoint, essential tributaries to the Pike. So it's not just the Pike, we're going as far upstream as we can with our ability at the village.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say we're gonna build off that success, not rest on it.
Anybody else, thoughts? Okay, thank you, Sam, thank you, Tony, for a real good update. So from here, we go to public comment, which is members of the public are welcome to provide comment on any matter. Please fill out a comment form and the president will recognize you. Use the microphone and state your name and address for the public records. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. So I have something here from Timothy Dedrick. If you want to come up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, happy to hear from you.
So, good evening. My name is Tim Dedrick. I live at 1047 Prairie Drive, Unit 204, condo. I'm a 75-year-old retired individual who has lived in Mount Pleasant since 2016. For the most part, I've found the village to be a pretty pleasant place to live. I'm here tonight to talk about a matter of public safety. I attempted to speak with the police chief on several occasions, but unfortunately, those were unsuccessful. For the record, I'm not here to criticize the police. Had I been successful in speaking with the chief, I would have made this perfectly clear. I am here to put you all on notice that our roads and highways have become unsafe. Barely a day goes by that I don't see a driver disregard and run a red light or stop sign. A traffic light changing from green to yellow used to indicate the need to prepare to stop. Today, it seems to be taken as a challenge to see if you can accelerate through the intersection before the cross traffic appears. In addition, and probably adding to the unsafe conditions, speed limits are routinely ignored. And I don't mean by a few miles an hour, but rather by significant amounts bordering on reckless driving, as far as I can tell. I come before you because I believe you are in a position and actually have a duty to address this problem. It's nice to have parks and free concerts and all the fine things that you've been talking about tonight, but if it's dangerous to travel the roads to attend these events, we have our priorities wrong. Now, you can wait until we have a tragedy and we can all attend a memorial or a candlelight vigil for the innocent victims and release balloons into the air and all that good stuff. And people can stand around saying somebody needs to do something to prevent this senseless loss. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to point out that you are the people that are that somebody. You have the opportunity to make traffic enforcement a priority and direct the needed resources to the problem. I suggest you meet with the chief of police, perhaps he'll return your calls and meet with you, and ask 2 questions. Do we have a traffic safety problem? And do you have the resources to address this problem? I believe it's your duty to work with the law enforcement to address the situation. I thank you for your attention, and I hope you all make it home safely tonight.
Appreciate your thoughts, and I should point out to you that the police chief is here, and he'd be happy to talk further with you in the other room. Anybody else wishing to speak publicly? Last call. So we can close public comment. We can move on to the next item, which is the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda as presented.
I would like to second that with a amendment to number 4, the approval of the ordinance 16-2025 massage establishment license code revisions. Under number 7, I would like it to read, all massage establishments must maintain professional liability insurance in the amount not less than $1 million per occurrence and $2 million for all occurrences in 1 year.
Ram, so moved.
Is that okay with the maker of the
I
motion?
move to amend the, I move to amend,
Just say so moved.
so move.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So that motion carries. And under Public Works, we have an item here, discussion and possible motion to approve Resolution 20-2025, which is public highway / roadways. Can somebody make a motion on behalf of trustee?
I make a motion to approve Resolution 20-2025, accepting public highway and roadways as presented.
Second.
So if I can just go back to Tony for a minute, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, just briefly, this is something we do annually. These are actually the same roads just mentioned in the presentation that have been fully vetted by staff. We've reviewed the plans, we've inspected all public improvements, and all are ready to be accepted by the village.
Okay. So in the matter of that resolution, 20-2025, we'll take a roll call vote on that.
Karas. Anastasio.
Aye.
Pollock.
Aye.
Bhatia.
Aye.
Venturini.
Aye.
DeGroot.
Aye, that motion carries. I have no other business, so go
Mr.
ahead.
President, with your permission,
Sure.
under the reports, I'd like to quickly acknowledge the great work done by our snow plowing team. It's very nice to hear from the residents applauding the village effort. And I'm very pleased to report that I got a couple of messages and calls saying is Village of Mount Pleasant did a great job after the last weekend snowfall, how efficiently and how did they do that. And I want to convey my congratulations to the village, to Tony and all the snow plowing team. Keep up the great work.
Well, you beat me to that, and I know that some overtime was involved, but it sure is nice to be able to wake up to a clean street in front of your house.
Yep.
Now, you have to deal with the furrow that's in front of your driveway, but,
Yeah, because we always get called when people don't like it, so I wanted to share that. It's great to hear that, that people do appreciate that,
I
even
think
if
we
they
do.
don't speak as often.
our Public Works is first rate.
And with that, I
Well,
move to adjourn.
no.
Oh, no, okay, hold on.
New trustee, let her make a final motion.
Make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
You can second it.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion, a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.